Now, we talked yesterday on The Times at 1 about how the Democrats are faring in the US at the moment ahead of those midterms. Well, Angie Nixon, a progressive Democrat, won the party's US Senate primary in Florida yesterday in a rather shock result for the Democratic establishment. It's another high-profile win for those on the left of the party. A far cry, some might say, for the politics of Bill Clinton, who celebrates his 80th birthday today. Let's have a look and a listen back on the life of the former president.
Our democracy must be not only the envy of the world, but the engine of our own renewal. There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right. If you want to know why I care so much about our children and our future, it all started with Hillary. I love you.
Tonight is my last opportunity to speak to you from the Oval Office as your president. I am profoundly grateful to you for twice giving me the honor to serve, to work for you and with you, to prepare our nation for the 21st century.
The unmistakable voice of former president, we would say here, Bill Clinton, speaking through the years. As he turns 80, how can we measure his influence and importance to the party he was so successful for? Well, joining me now is Hilary Rosen, the former advisor to Hillary Clinton and friend of the couple. Welcome to The Times at 1, Hilary Rosen. We heard Bill Clinton say at the end of that clip that leaving the Oval Office, that he worked to prepare the United States for the 21st century. Did he?
Well, he did. And, you know, that is kind of the best of Bill Clinton and that legacy. He is the first president who spoke, maybe since John Kennedy, about preparing the future and preparing young people for the future. He was engaging young people throughout his presidency, throughout his campaign. In essence, people attribute his election for the first time to younger people influencing their parents, similar than that's the legacy he left for Barack Obama, who used the same strategy.
How do you think Democrats view him now? I mean, I just mentioned the success of a progressive within the party. Is he really the modern idea of what a Democrat should be?
It's a complicated legacy. His, sexual behavior and his, let's face it, a lack of public accountability and remorse about it all still stings with a lot of Democrats.
Does it? Okay.
Particularly women. And I think that is a stain on his legacy. Having said that, the politics of Bill Clinton were unique and something that, Democrats probably should emulate in some way today, because what he was uniquely good at was understanding both sides of the argument. He wasn't really about the politics of division. He was more about the politics of persuasion. He could articulate the argument of the other side and then tell you why he thought his view was better for you. And that is something that does not happen today. And understanding the politics of Donald Trump and the reason he has support is something Democrats need to do, toot sweet. Like, this is not really happening well enough. And Bill Clinton actually would be a pretty good teacher about that.
Right. I mean, it is interesting. We talk about that issue precisely here in the UK and across Europe a lot, about the failure of many politicians to sort of reach across the divide. That was always the success of what you might say were centre-left or centre-right politicians like Bill Clinton, like Tony Blair. Do you think American politics is worse off for not having people at the centre in public life like Bill Clinton?
Well, we have people in public life, but he, I think, was uniquely talented in that regard. And that's why having this complicated legacy is a shame. I think Hillary Clinton has very similar politics as Bill Clinton, and yet she became an extremely divisive figure. So I do think that people are sort of yearning now for a politician who can be that sort of storyteller. And we've yet to see how leaders are emerging for the next round of presidential politics, but that is key. And unfortunately, Bill Clinton is just not a great messenger for that right now because of his complicated past.
Do you think that would have changed if there had been more remorse, more openness about his personal life, his personal track record. I mean, he was impeached after all at the time. That might have made it easier generally for the Democrat establishment to talk about him more as a sort of poster boy for the Democrat Party.
You know, that's an excellent question. And I do think that people in general are pretty forgiving. People kind of, see the flaws in each other and in themselves. And I think if he had spent a little more time acknowledging the hurt he had caused, understanding the moment that he, had found himself in, I think it would have helped.
What about the economy? Because you could point to Bill Clinton's success, which was broad in terms of the economy, but it was a benign economic period. He did preside over, just I suppose generally, growing incomes, people feeling good about themselves. It is much harder today.
Well, it is, but I think that the administration there gets a little more credit. He presided over, there was a big deficit that budget deficit that he inherited, and he made tough decisions and pushed tough votes to address the deficit, to raise taxes on the wealthy and to cut spending. He did welfare reform, something that we need to do in the UK. He took on his friends. And sometimes you have to take on your friends to do what's right for the long term. He promoted free trade, something that at the time was an anathema to Democratic Party. And we saw the blossoming of consumer spending, of savings, of jobs, of the like. Some people blame manufacturing going away, but services came back. And that was a very important thing. So I do think he has a economic legacy, a legislative legacy that is important and should be looked at today.
Do you mourn the fact that Hillary never made it to president?
I will always mourn the fact that Hillary never made it to president. I think regularly about how different this country might be in the U.S. if she had won.
How different do you think it would have been if she had become? I know we're in the realms of speculation, but you were obviously close to her and advised her. What difference do you think it really would have made?
I don't think she's just not about the politics of cynicism and punishment the way Donald Trump was and is. I think she would have worked harder for recognizing the needs of families and women and children. She was focused on helping people get a leg up. I think that we would not have had the resentment against the elite that we have today because her policies and her, platforms were just more focused on regular folk than Donald Trump's is. And I think that legacy has, been lost.
Hilary Rosen, former advisor to Hillary Clinton and friend of both Bill and Hillary. Thank you very much for talking to us today on The Times at 1.